Here we go. Okay, so tonight is question and answer, and as I was just telling these guys, you want to give me your best questions, don't give me your worst questions. These don't have to be like the most confusing, esoteric questions that you can possibly imagine. They can be, and I'll see what I can do. But you could also just ask me, like, Steve, what are your thoughts on forgiveness? Like, you teach people to beat each other up, but what about, like, being a nice person? Anything that you want to ask, and if you guys are online, you can ask by typing it into the comments section. Questions. Always good for a question. Go, ma'am.
Okay. How do you always stay and act from your higher self? Because that's who you truly are. That's like the purest form. But little things like your subconscious, some people have PTSD, PMS, sometimes it distorts that, pure state.
Mm-hmm.
How do you come back to that as quickly as you can?
Got it, yeah. So the first part of your question is going to get a sarcastic answer from me. How do you always act from your higher self? And the answer is, I don't. Nobody does, unless you're enlightened. So someday, maybe. But you nailed it. Like, things come up and throw you off balance, and you have to come back as quickly as possible. So how do we do that? How do we come back to this place of acting from our highest self as quickly as possible? So one of the things is to not let these other things take us too far for too long. And it's really easy to find ourselves in some other kind of state and then wallow in that, and even start having thoughts like, well, I deserve to be pissed off right now, or sometimes the funniest part is we're not in the best state of consciousness. We're not our highest self, and then we start beating up on ourselves for not being our highest self right now, and that just makes it last even longer. So it's like you're resisting it instead of just accepting it. So the first step is recognize it. Recognize you have a problem. The second step is to accept it. If you recognize it and immediately start fighting, that makes it last for way longer. So you recognize it, you accept it, and then it just goes right through you. If you have established, what it is that your highest self would do in that situation, or have connected with your higher self on some level, if you've never done that before, and you recognize that you're not being the way that you want to be, and you want to let that go, there's like nothing else to go to. So it's like in meditation, when we know that what we are endeavoring to focus on in the beginning especially is the breath. So when we start thinking about something else, instead of fighting against that thought, we just let it go and then return gently to the breath. Practicing meditation is one great way to help get our minds used to doing this. So I would certainly say that one of the best things to do to help you more easily come back to your higher self is to meditate. It's going to help you in the moment of whatever it is that you're dealing with, be able to come back when you meditate. Like, I'm not in the state that I want to be, I'm going to sit and meditate and come back to it. That's going to help. But also, it's like doing the work ahead of time. It's like planning for the fire before your house is burning down. So meditation is the easy answer because we're in meditation class. I would say get yourself in tune with and aligned with whatever your higher self is as often as possible. Meditation is only one of many ways. So what you read, what you're watching, whatever media you're consuming, the people that you're spending time with, what you've decorated your house with, the places that you spend time, like the dojo, like all of this stuff serves on some really basic level as a reminder of this is who I want to be, this is who I know myself to be on a deeper, higher level, and it makes you feel that imbalance a lot more quickly when you're constantly surrounded by all of this, this great influence in your life. So that's another kind of simple but I think very practical way to do this. And I'm sure that there are other more esoteric answers that I can give you, but that's what I got for tonight. Other question? You're going to tell me when somebody gives me one on the line, right? Go ahead, sir.
So we just moved here and I'm looking for work. And I found one job that's really easy. And then I don't feel like it's the right thing because it's too easy and maybe I won't be as fulfilled doing it. Is that bad?
Oh, man. Yes, Doug. It's terrible. So this is a great question. Man, and it goes into lots of different possible situations in life, right? Is what is easy bad? Is what is easy and possibly not as fulfilling bad? I don't know if I even think that bad is a real. I think it's a construct of it's a human construct. What is bad and good? But it doesn't matter so much if it's bad to me. I'm going to talk about what works and what doesn't work. So if it works for you to have a job that's easy but less fulfilling because it allows you to be fulfilled in other ways because I have time freed up or energy freed up, then maybe that is fine. If it doesn't work for you because I just keep wanting to find something that is, more of a challenge, it's something that I can pour myself into, it's something that I feel like I'm, doing something great with my day and my time, then it doesn't work for you. I don't think that it is often helpful to look at it like, am I, being a bad person with this? But I know this is the way that you're framing your question. But look at it like this. We all have X amount of time and energy to give to the world and the universe and the people around us and to ourselves. And if you are spending that time and energy doing something that you don't really feel fulfilled with, then that is for sure some amount of like a time suck or an energy suck. And you can on some level just do some simple math like this. I don't love it, but it allows me to do this, which is so much more important to me. And I have noticed that you have been in the dojo pretty often recently, so maybe it's fine. I'm not going to tell you got to quit that job, but you can't go just from the perspective of it's easy and I just feel like kicking the can a little bit further down the road and like you kind of get into the habit of whatever's easy is what I do. And I know that's not who you are at all, which is why I don't think that there is necessarily an easy, quick answer to this. I think some people would ask me this and I would say, stop it, you're being lazy. This job, you need to quit that and get a real job. But you're not the kind of person who's just like ready to sit back and just, do whatever is easiest. So I don't think it's as simple as saying, is this job, because it is not that hard and not that fulfilling, is this a bad thing? But look at it that way. Look at what does this allow me to pursue? Look at, what could I change this into? And in my experience, if you get real with yourself, like really real, which is hard to do, but if you get really, really real, right away if this is where you should be or if it's not. The hard part is getting real with yourself and recognizing that this is just, something that's convenient and easy. It is not something that, I'm deciding to do because it allows me to do something else. And that act of getting real with yourself is so important. And there are a lot of things that we do. I mean, your job is great because you spend a lot of time and energy there, but look at all of the other stuff that we do, and again, all of the relationships and the places that we go. I think if we really recognize, why am I doing this? That's an important question to ask on the regular. Why am I doing this? Why really am I doing this? From a from a deep, realistic place? Is this coming from my higher self? Is this coming from a place of me wanting to be productive and getting done what I want to get done in this life? Or is this coming from a place of just wanting to sit back and take it easy? And you did just move here, so I personally am fine with you taking it easy a little bit. And if you start to feel antsy and like this job isn't enough, then keep looking for something new. And you've heard Sifu Brown talk about this 100 times, but I don't know if everybody else has. This society is messed up. We have all convinced ourselves that your job is the thing that you do so that you can just like get through the day, get paid, and then do what you love. That's psychotic. I mean, really. You should spend your time doing something that you love, and if your job is only fulfilling that, you better really be freed up with a lot of other time and energy to do the other stuff that you love and what is deeply impactful for you and for the people around you. But if your job is that thing that you go to every day and just slog through just so that you can get through the week and then enjoy your weekend, that's messed up. And I said this before, if you're doing that for the week, that's terrible. If you're doing it for the whole month and then finally I can take like a little bit of a break, that's even worse. And if you're working this job that you don't like for a whole year so that you can take like a week off at the end and enjoy yourself, and it's like a long period of time of just dissatisfaction, and I'm not doing what I want to do, accomplishing what I want to accomplish, and being the way that I want to be, just get out of there. It's like no matter how far down the wrong road you've gone, you just turn around and go back the other way. But that's only if if you're being real with yourself and you know that that's actually what's happening. So just don't let yourself get sucked into that. Society is for all those other people. You're part of the dojo, so you got to do stuff a little bit differently. Other question? Nobody else has a question? Nobody yet? Go, ma'am.
This is actually a related question, but as you were talking, I was thinking, how do you not identify in doing like a job or martial arts where sometimes when you do it, you almost identify with it, and that's an illusion, and that's your ego. And I try not to put myself down that way, but sometimes people, seem to establish their identity.
Yeah. Yes, absolutely. So I love identifying with what I do. and I find it very helpful, actually, because when I go out into the rest of the world and I am trying to act from my higher self, I am one of the weird people in this world that actually I do what I love to do and what connects me to my higher self and my higher purpose. I get to do that for a job. But not everybody does get to do that. So I don't want to pick on anything in particular, but let's say that you are, let's say that you're a janitor. And let's say, because the janitor doesn't get a good rap. Now, some people love being a janitor, and I remember being in high school, and we were friends with the janitors, and they were cool guys, and I feel like there was some kind of a rapport there, but I don't know if it's always like that. I think sometimes you got to come in at night when everybody's gone and you're just cleaning and you feel like this is not really what I love doing. But I'm just using this as an example. It could be anything. You might hate being a lawyer, you might hate being a martial arts teacher because you're weird, whatever. But if you start to identify as that, and you filter everything that you see through that, that's a real issue. I think that it's almost as much of an issue or more when other people start to identify you as your job. I had a real deep conversation with somebody a little while ago, better part of a year ago, I think, and he said this really simple but profound thing that I couldn't believe I never really heard or truly considered before, which is people don't like to be they don't like to be pigeonholed into or identified with a small part of themselves, or with their smallest part. So you take the political air in this country is insane right now, but a lot of people are out there basically pointing their hatred towards lots of specific groups of people. And if you think of this person as, only being Muslim, and that's a really easy way to brush aside all of the other very, complicated things about anybody, is to say that person is this. It makes it really easy to hate somebody. It makes it really easy to write them off. And it could be anything. It could be this person is a liberal. This person is a whatever. This person is a whatever. And you might, have a problem with that aspect of that person. But if you are completely identifying that person as such, or you are allowing yourself to completely identify or even be identified by other people as just that small part of you, then I think you're not really doing yourself or other people favors. I'll give you another example, and then I'll try to answer your actual question, which was how do I stop this from happening? But I met a wonderful man years ago, and was going through this, it was a landmark course actually. I was going through this multiple month-long course with him, and at some point he got up in front of this class of about 60 people, and he said, I'm a child molester. When I was very young, I was basically 13, and I molested somebody who was younger than me. And when he said that, man, it hit me like a truck, because I realized that for my entire life I have been writing off people or limiting them by a factor. And like you hear, somebody is a child molester, you think that person is a child molester, and that's the only thing that you care about that person. Or you hear that person is an ex-con, that person was in jail, they must have done something terrible, they must be a bad person, rather than recognizing like this is a human being who did a thing. And maybe they keep doing terrible things, and maybe they identify as that, or maybe they identify as something completely different, but that is a thing that happened. And when we do this, it's so limiting when we identify other people in that way. It's so limiting to ourselves and to them. And when we allow ourselves to identify like that, or we do that to ourselves, it's severely limiting. So, how do we stop that from happening? Well, I think that we are all very complex people. I think that on some level, again, it's like easy math. If I'm spending most of my time doing X, Y, Z, I kind of end up by default identifying like that. If this is my job and I do it 60 hours a week, man, it's tough to identify as anything else. If you're at home and you're a mom and you're taking care of your kids, a lot of the time you're spending a lot of your energy and time doing that. Even if you have another job, you might say, this is what I identify as. This is who I am. And you might just come to the dojo a couple times a week, and it's not nearly as much time and energy as you spend doing all of the other things in your life, but you might decide, this is who I am. I am a martial artist. And I will tell you right now, if I were a janitor or I did anything else, I would identify as a martial artist. I am very lucky and well, it's not really luck. I mean, I chose to do this, but I'm very glad that I get to spend my days doing what I love so much and what I really identify as and what connects me to my higher self. But I would choose to identify as this no matter what else I did for a living. It's the most important thing to me. So I think if we recognize what's most important to us, and we just keep reminding ourselves what that is, and part of it is like the self-talk, the things that we say, the language that goes on in our minds, but just look at it from that perspective. Like, I get to choose who I am. You do. Other people don't get to choose that for you. And the beautiful thing about it is it doesn't actually matter what you have been identified as up until this very moment. You can choose at any moment to switch that up. Now, you're going to have a lot of, I've heard this put like this, and I think it makes a lot of sense. You're going to have either agreement or disagreement out in the world for what your view or your identifying as or what you want to identify as. And if you've got a lot of people around you who don't think that you're a martial artist, they think that you are this or they think that you're that, it's going to be tough to maintain that. So you've either got to convince them or get new people around you. And that's tough to do. But that's just kind of like on a practical level. It's very difficult to identify as something without any agreement from anybody else. Ideally, you can. Ideally, it's like I decide, and it does not matter what anybody else says or thinks or does about it. This is who I am. And our practice and meditation and all of that makes that a little bit easier. But I would say something that is really practical is to go into what's going on with other people. How are other people seeing me? What are these conversations like? What are people expecting of me? And try to start to change that and see how that affects you. When other people see you as being bigger, oftentimes it makes you feel bigger. And then don't let it go the other way. Other people see you as smaller. Don't allow yourself to be affected by that. Good luck. Other question. Yes, ma'am.
This isn't as profound, but
great. I need a softball. Lob one up for me.
So sometimes when I'm meditating, I get a sensation like I'm falling.
Mm-hmm.
And it's
where are you falling?
Meditation off my bench.
You're falling. So you're not zoning out and like actually physically moving.
No. Well, I tense up when it happens, and I have a thought of, I'm falling. So it breaks my.
Interesting.
It breaks my meditation, and it definitely only happens on the bench. I don't know if you've experienced that, and if it's something that.
Oh, I experience that all the time, but it's when I'm sleepitating. You're sure that you're not getting sleepy and drowsing off? Is that a thing? Getting drowsy? What am I thinking? Dozing off. Yes, thank you. You're sure that it's not that?
I don't think so.
Okay. And you sit. So the question for those of you listening at home, the question is, I get the sensation like I'm falling when I meditate, and my body tenses up, and that jerks me out of my meditation. And you only experience that when you're sitting on the bench. So where else do you sit that doesn't happen?
I've done it on Muay Thai mitts, sometimes on a couch or on church pew.
Is it if your back is leaning against something that you don't have that experience?
Yes, sir.
So for sure that, but also you say you do it on Muay Thai mitts. Is it cross-legged versus seiza?
It's seiza when I'm on Muay Thai mitts, and I haven't.
So you could be sitting in the same position, but literally just you have a bench versus mitts underneath you?
Yeah, and I don't know.
That sounds weird.
I haven't done it on the mitts as often as the bench.
Could be.
The bench is my primary.
Well, what you've got here is something weird. That's a technical term. As a professional meditator, I'm going to tell you that. It could be. I have no idea what this is. When I experience it, it's because I have gotten through my day, and it has been a long day, and I have to meditate before I go to sleep because I haven't meditated as long as I would have decided that I'm going to. So I sit, and every once in a while I will start getting drowsy, and my meditation turns into sleepitation, and I start to do that, and I gotta wake myself up. I'm still not 100% convinced that that's not happening, but okay. Make sure that you're really awake all the time when you're meditating as often as possible. Something weird about the way that you're sitting, maybe on your bench. And it could just be like something that happened. Our brains are messed up, so maybe you were even sleepitating on the bench on a regular basis, and now you've got yourself used to like doing this weird kind of falling and tensing thing only when you're sitting on your bench. We do weird stuff like that to ourselves all the time, and it could be just something that happens when you're meditating. It could also be the opposite end of it, like you're actually getting into your best possible meditation when you're sitting on your bench, and your meditations other places are not as good, and you're just in a place right now where when you get into a really good meditation, you feel like you're falling and your body tenses and brings you out of it. That could be happening too. And 1,000 other things could be happening. You've heard me tell this story. I was meditating once early in my practice, maybe a year or two in, and I started getting this sensation like almost like an out-of-body sensation where I felt like my head was like a balloon floating up on the ceiling, and I was sure if I opened my eyes I would see my body below me. I never actually did it because I didn't want to be disappointed. But I asked Sifu Brown about it, and he said, keep going. He said, I don't want to tell you what this is because I don't fully know, and if I tell you that it's a good thing, then you're going to keep getting attached to it. If I tell you if it's a bad thing, then every time it happens, you're going to beat yourself up for letting it happen again. I think there's a good chance that if you just keep meditating, it's going to go away. There's a chance that it never goes away. How long has this been happening for?
Probably since I began.
Since you began meditating.
I got the bench.
The bench. Give me your bench.
Maybe it's a faulty bench.
It's never going to happen again.
Thank you, sir.
I don't know. Keep meditating. I think that this idea of having these experiences when we meditate, and all of us who meditate for any length of time start to have these weird experiences, and it's part of it. Don't look at it like this is a bad thing that I have to stop it from happening, and don't look at it like this is a good thing that I have to be attached to, because who knows? At the end of the day, if you're sitting regularly, if you're sitting for a decently long period of time, and you're getting pretty deep, you're feeling more calm and peaceful from your meditation, and you're getting into these deeper states of consciousness, and you're experiencing maybe bliss sometimes. You're just recognizing throughout my day I'm more focused, I'm more calm, I'm more disciplined. That's great. If you do this every once in a while, don't let that detract from your practice at all. Try just not thinking about it for a month and see what happens. And then if it keeps happening and it's really bothering you and you can't let it go, stop sitting on the bench. Other question. Sir.
Splitting off of that a little bit, you said like sometimes to fall asleep you need to wake yourself up. Are there other ways or other focuses you'll have during meditation aside from just clearing your mind? Like,
I'm going to give you a real quick answer to this because I just realized that we're going over time already. But Catherine just sits there looking at the time and she just goes, oh, another question? Sure, go ahead. And never says anything to me. So, ideally, we keep our mind as single-pointedly focused as possible. It doesn't wander, but when it does, we bring it right back to the breath. Sometimes you're going to notice that you are getting sleepy and you can't do this meditation, the ideal way right now. So you might just decide, you know what, I'm going to stand up, move around, and come back and sit again. I don't personally like that because I think it has a tendency to train our minds to freak out, and it gives your monkey mind a little bit too much power to take over and ruin your meditation because it knows if it puts up enough of a fight, if it throws enough of a fit, you're going to give up. So I would say do that very seldomly. But a great thing to do would be, I read this book, Mind Illuminated, is a wonderful book on meditation. You should read it. And it talks about a lot of things that I agree with and have experienced and have taught for a long time. It has some stuff that I don't completely agree with, and it's got some other stuff that I'm kind of a mind of right now where it's like, I'm going to try that out. One of these things is when I'm sitting and meditating, and I notice that it is really difficult to focus, and maybe I'm actually getting sleepy and starting to get drowsy. What I will do is focus on the sensation of my breath in another part of my body. And so he refers to this as like the, feeling the energy in the body and the subtle vibrations of your body. But I like this. It's like I'm going to feel in my hands, almost like a qigong, where I breathe, and instead of just focusing on the sensation of my belly or focusing on the sensation of the air going in and out of my nose or through the throat, I'm going to focus on my hands, and I'll feel like a tingling or a vibration, or just like what my hands do when they're not moving, but my breath is coming in and my breath is going out. I'll do that for a couple, and then I'll go to focus on, what do my feet do, or what does my thigh do, or my shoulders. And it's not like focusing on the moving, it's focusing on just that subtle sensation of your body, but still attaching it to the breath, which I think is key. A lot of times people say, I like to just focus on, the way that my body feels kind of like separate from the breath, like is it relaxed or is it tense or whatever else it is, which is fine, but I really like to use the breath as much as possible as the anchor. So I'm not actually completely leaving the breath here. I'm still using the breath as the focal point, but feeling it somewhere else in the body. So try that. And you'll notice that oftentimes gives you a little bit more to hold on to without losing the breath as your focus. So let's practice all that stuff now. We're going to meditate, and if you find yourself feeling like you're floating up in the ceiling, or you feel like you're getting drowsy, or whatever it is that you're feeling, come back to the breath. If you need to focus on the sensation of the breath in another part of your body, great. If you need to just let it all go and just come back to the stillness, great. Do that. Sit. Comfortable.